Challenge 200 wasn't just any test. It was set to push me in ways I've never been pushed before. I've played plenty of golf over the years, but speed golf? That's a whole different beast. I'm used to cruising in a cart with a playing partner, taking our time during a normal 4-hour round. Grab one of the 14 clubs from the bag, line up the shot, and take it. Simple, right? This is, without a doubt, the most daunting challenge I've ever taken on. 7 months since a surgeon worked on my spine, and just 3 months since the inside and outside menisci in my right knee were stitched back together. My knees worn down with arthritis, my back fragile, my hips barely holding up. In Challenge 200, I'd be running, jogging, and walking the entire 5.3 miles of the hilly terrain across 18 holes. No cart, no caddy, just me, 5 clubs on my back, and a clock that will not stop. I had to finish it all in under 100 minutes. And if that wasn't enough, I needed to shoot under 100. And for a high handicapper like me, that wasn't just a challenge. Heart rate's up at
This is
156.
heart rate.
Hi, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's the part when I can teach her.
Oh.
Yeah. Come on, legs. You got this, baby. So why on earth would I willingly dive headfirst into a challenge in a sport most people have never even heard of, knowing full well it could break me? I've gone through a lot, but the pain that I went through was absolutely brutal. And it was back. It was in my back, but actually the pain was in my legs, both legs from the knees down. It was nerve pain. What made it so difficult is it was number one, it was relentless. There's nothing I could do to stop the pain. It was always there. It was like the best way for me to describe it, Eric, is it was like somebody had a knife and would just stab it into various parts of my legs or my ankles, and it didn't stop. At night, if I couldn't sleep in the bed, I went downstairs and slept on our couch to try to find a comfortable position, and I would have to move all over all night long. But one of the things I'd pray at night is, Father, it's okay to take me.
Greg had started taking pain medicine to try to just get through the night, just to get a little bit of sleep. He would sometimes not even be able to sleep on the couch downstairs. He could not find a comfortable position. Um, Sometimes he would go out and sit in his car. Somehow the position of the seat in his car would relieve the nerve pain. And I remember one night around Christmas, he I had gone to bed and it was about 3 in the morning, and he came in, woke me up, and he was just he was desperate. I'd never seen him like that. He was almost in tears and just looking to me to do something. Just, "I need you to help me. I can't take it anymore. I can't stand it. I can't stand the pain." And I said, "Well, there's no more pain medicine you can take. Like, you can't have any more. It's dangerous. I don't know how to help you." That night was one of the coldest nights that winter. It was 19 degrees outside. And he put on his Lambeau Field, puffered jacket, coat, and he went and climbed in the car and put on his mittens, and that's where he slept until the morning.
So I consulted, and one was a neurosurgeon, one was an orthopedic surgeon. And fortunately for me, they both gave me the same diagnosis. They told me I would have to have a bilateral discectomy, whatever that meant. Yeah, but they both said the same thing. I ended up going with the orthopedic surgeon because It was a little bit less invasive, even though it was the same basic procedure, but a little bit less invasive and potentially a quicker recovery time. Well, for me, that was important. That meant if this worked, I could get back to doing my workouts, playing golf, and doing things. And so I chose to do that. The surgery was on July 6th of 2023. And that I remember that all too well because I had to walk slowly. I had to walk with a cane, and I was praying that something would happen better that day. That's number one I remember. Number two, what I remember is that that night when I got home, it was time for bed. I actually went to sleep in our bed for the first time in almost 2 years. And I went through the entire night completely pain free. I looked at my life and said, everything I've been through, and now I'm now 71 years old, and I'm looking at this thinking, wait a minute once, is this all there is? I'm going to go back now to playing golf, doing workouts, doing a little bit of work, and that's my life? And I said, it can't be. There's got to be something more. There's got to be something else that I can accomplish, that I can do. And so I'm not even sure exactly what prompted it, but through prayer and talking to Michelle and just coming up with ideas, I came up with this idea of speed golf. But it couldn't just be speed golf. I had to set a goal. I had to set something that was going to challenge me over and above what most people my age would ever consider doing, or most people even 20, 30 years younger than me would ever even think about doing. And I felt at that time, I felt the only way I could do is if I did something else. It had to be something more, and it had to be something other people couldn't do. Not to make me better than them by any means, but maybe in a way to inspire other people.
Tell me about Burn the Boats, Baby, and where it originated.
Not a lot of people know the story of Cortez. Cortez was a Spanish noble, and he decided he wanted to move into Mexico and he actually wanted to take over the Aztec nation. And so what he did is he took his men, and there were 500 of them, and they got on the beaches. And when they got on the beaches in Mexico, he said to them, he said, guys, burn the boats. His men looked at him and said, they all knew he was a little bit of a crazy warrior anyway, but they said, what do you mean? Well, how would we get back? He said, it's very simple. We either win or we die. Now, that's dramatic. Challenge 200 was not a win or die, but this is what was a win or die for me. There was no way I was turning back from Challenge 200. So what I did is my burn the boats was to tell everybody about Challenge 200 and what I was going to do. I blasted it all over social media. I came up with a big email list of over 100 people and said, I'm going to keep you updated on it so that no matter what got in my way during those 126 days of training, there was no way I could go back. And Michelle used to say to me, she said, you realize that you cannot not do this? You have to. You've told the world you're going to do this. That was my burn the boats. You know, when I was a child and going through school, I was not the sharpest kid. School for me was incredibly difficult. A lot of my friends go through their book and they'd ace it. And, for me, it wasn't like that. And I know I studied as harder than most of the kids, but I struggled to get C's, and every once in a while I get lucky I'd get a B. As much as I struggled with school, I was good in athletics. And in many cases, I could compete with the very best that were out there. And, it's interesting. My father always said to me, he said, Greg, You are always going to find people who are smarter than you in this world, but absolutely no one can outwork you unless you let them. You know, my grandmother, her name was Filomena Berarducci. She was from central Italy, about 110 miles east of Rome. At age 16, now I want people to understand, we're talking about age 16. Imagine your 16-year-old daughter. Her mom and dad put her on a boat to come to the United States from central Italy, never to come back home again, for an arranged marriage. Think about that. My grandmother, we called her Nonna. That's the way you say grandma in Italian. We called her Nonna. She was by far the toughest woman I'd ever met. She had a way to mix toughness and love all at once. And I remember a quick story when I was a kid, my grandmother came down to take care of us while my mom was in the hospital for a while. And I sprained my ankle. And she saw that I was down in the dumps and she said, "What's wrong with you?" It wasn't like it was, "Oh, come here." No. "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Well, Nona, I hurt myself and now I can't go out and play with my friends and I don't like that." She said, "What happened?" I said, "My ankle." "Let me see that ankle." And she grabbed the ankle, pulled it up, put it on her lap, and said, "Oh, we fixed that." Now, back then, we wore canvas Converse high tops. She took my high top, tightened that thing up real tight, put it in got it all tightened up and said, "Go out and play." And I looked at her and she says, "Don't you whine. You get out there and play with your friends. Don't let that little hurt stop you." I was taught to dismantle monumental goals into bite-sized pieces, to map out each necessary step as if I were charting a treacherous course. My plan looked daunting, but I knew each step had to be done. I had to build leg endurance to tackle those punishing 5.3 hilly miles. I'd need to work up to an intense 10-mile jog walk through the hills like the ones I would face during the challenge. I'd have to learn to love hill sprints, not just run them. Sprint while embracing the burn and the struggle as if each step uphill were a small victory. I'd have to embrace the heat. This was going to be July. I had to seek out the sweltering days of May and June, training under the chosen days with blazing sun when it felt like the world was melting around me. I had to do heart rate training. I would jog and walk on the treadmill, striving to maintain my heart rate between 130 and 135 for 100 minutes. A relentless countdown of attention to controlling both my body and my mind. And golf lessons. Somewhere in all this chaos, I had to squeeze in a lesson or two to hone my skills. And all of this in just 126 days. I had all kinds of doubts about it. I hadn't run in 14 years. Most of my training was done in my gym in my basement, and most of it was on an elliptical in a controlled environment. Now here I'm talking about the beginning of July, the hottest month in Atlanta, with high humidity, and doing it and going through hills and jogging, which I haven't done in 14 years. The doctor said, "Look, Greg, you haven't ran in 14 years. You are 71 years old, and you're going to go and do something that very few people would ever think about doing." So yes, the doctors were there, but at the same time, I knew that I could do this. My adrenaline was through the roof as I stood there waiting for the clock to hit 6:45 a.m. That was the moment I'd take my first tee shot, officially starting Challenge 200. By then, I'd already been up for hours, feeling the weight of everything that had led me here, the pain of the last 2 years before my surgery, and the grueling 126 days of training. All of it brought me to this point. The next few hours would be a test unlike any other. The early morning sky was still cloaked in darkness as the clock struck 4:45 a.m. I had already been awake for nearly an hour. My mind was racing, my body buzzing with anticipation for what lay ahead. Well, when we first started, the weather was okay. We were about 76 degrees. Humidity was at 75%, so it was humid, but I knew that that was going to be the coolest part of the day and that it was going to go up. So I get through the first hole, adrenaline's pumped, I'm just really charged up. Go down to the second hole, and as I'm approaching the green on the second hole, next thing goes through my mind is what I dubbed during my training called the Big Four. And for me, the Big Four were the green on 2 to the tee box on 3, green on 3 to tee box on 4, green on 5 to tee box, green on 4 to tee box on 5, green on 5 to tee box on 6. That's the Big Four. Why? Because they were the longest stretches that I'd have to deal with. And if they weren't the longest, they were by far the steepest. So I called it the Big Four because I knew from my training that was going to be the toughest part for me to get through. So it wasn't even the golf, it wasn't even the holes. It was getting to the tee box from the last green on those next 4 holes. On hole number 4, which is a short par 3, I had a great tee shot and I got a par, which is wonderful. But the celebration was extremely short-lived because the third leg of the Big Four was to get from the green on 4 up to the tee box on 5. That is by far the steepest hill. It is so steep. And then you get up to the top of what you think is the first hit, what you think is the hill, and you turn to your right, and there's more hill. So when I get up to the tee box on number 5, I look at my watch because I'm just checking my heart rate and the time. I'm looking at my watch. My heart rate's 165. Well, at 165, I knew there was no way I could keep hitting the golf ball. Not straight anyway. And on hole number 5, the first of the 3 Big Fours, it got to me. I pulled my drive on number 5 out of bounds to the left. I couldn't wait for my heart rate to get down to 140, which is where it needed to be. I'd have been standing there for 5 minutes.
Correct. You had 100 minutes.
That's it.
to
So I just had to get up and hit, and it went out of bounds. So by the time I get up to the green on hole number 5, I'm getting a triple bogey, which means 3 over par, triple bogey 7 on that hole. The Big Four got me. Then we get to hole number 6. Fortunately, that part of the Big Four, it's a long trek from number 5 to number 6, but it's relatively flat. So I get the hole number 6, and this is significant for the rest of the journey that day. I get to hole number 6, and I look at my watch. My heart rate's at just about 160. Now I'm looking at that thinking, this is crazy. What am I going to do now? I can't wait. I made a decision. I'm going to go the rest of the course without looking at my heart rate. I was very nervous. I could see what was going on with time. I knew my heart rate was elevated, and I was worried about my score. I get to hole number 8. I go to take my tee shot on hole number 8, and I hear Michelle yell to me. She says, "Greg, you've trained for this. You've got this. Just hit." And I did. Get to number 9. Number 9 is the toughest hole in the course. It's basically, other than the first 100 yards, just straight uphill. But my mind was set. All I got to do is get up through the first 9 and see where I'm at. We get up through the first 9, double bogey on number 9, and I look at my watch, just over 50 minutes, and a score of 47. So I was on my way with the score, but I was testing the time. Starting the back 9, I felt a whirlwind of emotions, relief mixed with tension. Knowing my front 9 score was on target, but fully aware the clock was ticking mercilessly if I wanted to break the 100-minute barrier. There was no margin for error. My team's encouragement echoed in my head, "You've got this." That should work. As I made my way through the shaded tunnel to the 14th tee box, I could feel my breathing growing ragged, the air thick and unyielding. My chest heaved, my pulse drumming a warning. When I bent down to plant my tee, the world wavered.
When I saw him come to the fairway on 16, he and Gary were starting to really drag. And I was looking at the clock and I started to worry. I'm really getting nervous. Like, he's not looking good. He is really starting to he's really starting to slow down. And I don't know if he's going to make it. Like, I don't know if he's going to get, I mean, I wanted him to make it in the 100 minutes. I was like, we got to get there. We're so close. I mean, we got 3 holes left, but he is dragging. And I was panicked. Like, what can I do? What can I do to inspire him, to give him some juice so he can get through the next few holes? And when he left 16, I remembered the story because his hero is still Sylvester Stallone, and Rocky is like his all-time favorite movie, inspirational movie. And in one of the Rocky movies, there's a scene where his wife Adrian is in a coma in the hospital. They don't know if she's going to make it. And she finally wakes up and he's supposed to go fight and he's not going to do it. And she wakes up and she looks at him and she said, "Go win." And this has always been like our don't cry.
Trying not to.
So
This is
this has always been our sort of kind of like when we need to encourage each other, I'm like, go win. Like when he's going off to do something or take on a challenge, I'm like, go win. And so all I could think of was, I'm going to put on the theme to Rocky and I'm going to I'm going to crank it up and I'm going to ride along beside him as he's running up the fairway, to get to those last couple holes. And I'm just going to blast the music and I'm like, go win. I'm telling him, go win. And to give him that extra adrenaline rush. And I mean, to me, that was the turning point. That was the point where he was able to kind of dig deep and get the last little bit of energy that he needed to finish.
I hear Michelle, she's yelling what you heard her talk about. Go win, go win. Oh, that just resonates with me. And I thought, just hit the ball straight, just hit the ball straight. And so that's what I kept doing until I got off the green on number 17. And I knew at that point I had the score made. There's nothing that could stop me from making the score at that point. Now it was all about making and breaking the 100 minutes. So I leave the green on 17. I go down to the tee box on number 18. And there's Michelle there. And Gary's right next to me and to her. And they look at me and they say, "You got this. You can do this. Let's go." And that's what I did. Yes. Yes. So I take my third shot, and for the first time that day, I look around and I don't see my brother Gary, but I hear him. He's yelling, "Go, go, go, just go." So I run up to get to my fourth shot. And now on that hole, my fourth shot is near the green, but it's behind the 2 sand traps that guard the green on the right-hand side. And I've got nothing left except adrenaline. Have you ever heard people talk about getting in the zone?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I felt. I wasn't thinking anymore. It was just pure adrenaline and being in the zone. All I did is I just went from muscle memory. And I got up to that shot, grabbed my wedge, and just hit. Now, normally that shot would frighten me because I got to get over two traps to a short pin and get over it. I didn't even think, I just hit it. And when I hit it, I saw it go over the two traps. Oh, I'm like, I got this. Looked at my watch. 99 minutes. I fall to my knees. I kiss the green. It's over. Sorry. But I stand up, and here comes Michelle. Take your time. She's running down from the cart path down to the green, and I am dripping wet from sweat. She just comes over there nonstop, jumps next to me, puts her arms around me, gives me a great big hug, and says, I love you. I'm so proud of you. I'll never forget it. Most victories come with lessons, some to fuel the next challenge, others as sobering reminders of our own limits. No athlete, no doctor would ever advise holding such a heart rate for over an hour, and certainly not at 71 years of age. There's no denying it. I was lucky, not careful. Looking back, I see just how close I came to something far more serious. Maybe I dodged death that day, or at least a life-altering scare. It's a sobering thought, a reminder that sometimes the line between victory and vulnerability is razor thin. Challenge 200 taught me that grit can take you far, but respect for our limits is what keeps us in the game.
I remember that day so clearly. It was October 4th. That morning, I had gone to lunch with some friends, and as I was leaving, Greg was getting ready to go to his physical exam, his annual physical. And, he's a Janicki, and, he had just overcome this back surgery and triumphed over this Challenge 200. And, these Janikis are made of good stuff. And I just assumed, it's going to be another good report. And as I said goodbye, I said, okay, go have another perfect exam with perfect numbers.
For the weight that I'm at, I should have no stomach at all, and it's kind of big and it's hard on the left side. He will lay down. Let's take a look. Took him less than 30 seconds, and he feels on my left side. He said, okay, you're going in for a CT scan today. And I said, wait a minute, what is it? He said, your spleen is significantly enlarged. At 5:15 on that Friday night, we get a call from the nurse and says your results came in, and it shows that you've got many very enlarged lymph nodes in your stomach and in your groin. And it's definitely cancer. We just don't know how much. But Dr. Paul will call you on Monday. From that call until Monday morning, anything you can imagine that goes through your mind. Am I going to live? Am I going to die? We don't know. I mean, we started looking up everything on AI to see what do large lymph nodes mean? And we learn all this stuff. And there's so many different things it could have been, but we didn't know. So Monday, Dr. Paul calls first thing in the morning, and I put him on speaker. And he says, Greg, I'm sorry to say, but you have got lymphoma. You've got a lot of cancer.
I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I was just paralyzed. And I thought, what does this mean? Stage 4 lymphoma? Is he dying? And everything just stood still. And I just remember thinking, I'm going to lose my husband. He's my best friend. He's my partner. He's my anchor. I'm going to lose him. I'm not ready.
So for the next week, it was hell. Again, we started looking up, now we had a little bit of an idea what it was, but we had no ideas. All we knew, I had stage 4 lymphoma. It hits you and you say, oh my gosh, my whole life has just turned upside down. He sat us down and he looked at all the test results that we've had thus far, and he told us, and he was very reassuring. For the first time, we began to actually say, okay, I think we're going to live through this. And then he made two offers to us. We could take a more traditional route, which would be chemotherapy, or we could take a clinical study. And we decided that we would take the clinical study. We left there, I'll never forget, we left his office down in Decatur. And this time we cried with good tears because we actually believed at that point this could be resolved. It would take months, but it could be resolved.
So on November 8th, we went to Winship for his first infusion treatment. And we went in and we met with the doctors. They did his lab work first and got all of his blood done and got the numbers. And so they knew exactly how to measure the infusion IV bag based on where his counts were. And they said, we expect some reaction, especially on the first treatment. Your body usually reacts to um, this type of infusion. It sends markers in to flag all of the cancer cells in your body, and it tells your body to then go and attack it and kill those cells. Well, his cancer was so extensive, it was spread so far through his body, all of his lymph nodes were affected. When they hooked up the infusion, about 30 minutes went by, and they start at a very slow rate and they ease you into it. And about 30 minutes in of a 6 hour, basically what we had anticipated, about a 6 hour run, he started to get stuffy. His eyes started watering. He was sniffling like he was coming down with a cold, and he started to shiver. He said, I think I'm cold. So they brought blankets. They bring heated blankets. Well, they stopped the infusion immediately, gave him some Benadryl, gave him some Tylenol, administered some steroids, and they wait 30 minutes. Once he's calmed down, not showing the symptoms, they start the infusion again. He started to get cold, and it just traveled all the way through his body until he was shaking almost as if he was seizing. They call it full Rigers. He was shaking uncontrollably. His fever spiked, his blood pressure spiked. 6 people were standing around his bed. They had him covered in probably 10 blankets. He was shaking the rails. He wasn't even himself, and they had to bring in oxygen. They started giving him Demerol, and I saw his blood pressure spike to almost 200, and I didn't know what was happening. I remember thinking, he's stroking out. He's not gonna make it through the first treatment. What am I gonna do? And I can't imagine living life without him. I'm not ready. I remember that same fear that I felt that day after October 4th, hearing that he was in stage 4 lymphoma. And I thought, he's not going to make it through this. And I didn't know what to do. It was the scariest time of my life.
After 3 months of treatments, my PET scan in January revealed significant progress toward remission. Yet, the knowledge of what's happening inside my body is an experience that's both humbling and sobering. Through the prayers of hundreds, and I truly mean hundreds of people, and by the grace of God, the cancer went into remission. Ringing the cancer bell is more than just a milestone. It's a profound moment of clarity and gratitude. This journey has given a renewed perspective on Challenge 200 and on life itself. Facing cancer brought me to an undeniable truth. Life is fragile, and so is mine. It reminded me that while grit can carry us far, it is often our inner strength and faith that sustains us through the battles we never see coming. As I prepare to ring this bell, it's not just for me, it's for all, Christine and many others who have been through this before. It's for those who are going through it now, who are in this center. And it's for all those who are going to be in this fight in the future. Cancer, you did not win this one. And ring this bell 3 times well. It's told us clearly to say, my treatment
I
is
know
done,
I
this
am
course is
beyond
run,
blessed,
and I am
and in
on
some
my
way, I hope my journey, Challenge 200 and my cancer fight, will inspire and encourage you. No matter what challenge you're facing or what you want to face in your life, know that you're not alone. There are those who have come before you and others going through what you're experiencing right now. You can do it. I know because I've been where you are.